The Senate could be the first to vote on this debt ceiling deal. 60 votes will be the task. We're joined now by Republican Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee to get his take on the legislation. And, of course, our own Peter Cook is right here next to me to help guide us through the interview. And, Senator, first off, $2 trillion in debt increase, $2.4 trillion in cuts over a number of years. Are you going to vote? Are you going to support this?
You know, we're going through the details right now, Margaret. Actually, I just left our conference table to come over here and do this, and I think all of us have to decide, do we think that, you know, we can make a better arrangement by having some short-term extensions. My guess is, candidly, with divided government the way that it is, it's unlikely. And so then you have to step back and look at where we are as a country, where we are as an economy, and you just have to make a decision as to what you think is best for the country. So I'd like to have, at 11 o'clock as a conference, we're going to go through point by point the bill. Our office obviously will have already done that with me prior to the meeting, and you know, it's one of those decisions that I'll make here in the next couple of hours.
One of the reasons that even the economic impact is heightened right now, or even today we got this latest economic reading showing that the weakness persists in this U.S. economy. I mean, what we learned is that the government's going to spend and invest less over the in the U.S. economy over the next few years. Are you worried about an impact on economic growth, and do you think there should be some stimulus in there?
No, I mean, if anything, look, I have a bipartisan bill in both the House and Senate that cuts from $5 to $7 trillion over a decade. That you know, that was depending on which baseline you look at. We all thought that $4 trillion was the right number. Then about Friday, you know, people thought, well, it looks like the deal may be moving down to $3 trillion. The real cuts are between 2.1 and 2.4 trillion. Really, on the front end, we're talking about $900 billion. Of that, the first-year cuts are only $7 billion. So there are a lot of question marks as to what real cuts are going to take place. I think what you're seeing in the market, obviously some disappointing news this morning, but I think people are looking at this and really wondering whether there are going to be those reductions. On the other hand, I do think this lack of predictability that's been out there has been a real drag on the economy, and it may be that, you know, look, the president has a very different vision for the country than Republicans do, and it may be that this needs to play out in this next election. But this is certainly no huge deal. It isn't a seminal moment like I had hoped. This is something that's marginal, and that's why the details really do matter. So we're going to finish going through those over the next 45 minutes and weigh in at this 11 o'clock conference.
Let me ask you about one of those details, this new super committee, because there is a lot of pressure put on this committee to come up with some of those cuts, even if those cuts are inadequate in terms of the problem at hand. What do you make of that committee and the likelihood they're going to end up with gridlock? We've got 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats, and you know they're going to be handpicked basically to do battle with each other. At the end of the day, they're going to get a deal?
Well, you know, I think we'll know really early on what the likelihood is based on the makeup of this committee, right? So, you know, there is a sequestration issue that occurs if they don't. One of the nice things about it is equal over a 9-year period. So you're talking about $100 billion in cuts that would occur if these men and women don't come to a conclusion. The problem is, again, those cuts don't occur until after this next election in January of 2013. And the way the cuts are set up, does Congress vote to override itself? There's no real supermajority issue. One thing for sure, though, Peter, and I think everybody in the country, and I know the markets watch these programs, they watch the both of you and some of us. One thing I think we all know is that none of us, this was a hostage that no one in their right mind was willing to shoot, right? I mean, the fact is that there's not going to be a default. We are going to raise the debt ceiling. And the question is it better to go ahead and be done with that with a deal that we know is only marginal, it's nominal, it's not seminal, or is it to hold out for another couple months thinking that more can be done? I'm not sure that more can be done. I care about people around this country having jobs deeply. And so, you know, what decision do you make? Under divided government, they say big things happen. This certainly is no big thing. But what is the best thing for the country at this point?
Senator, do you believe that the U.S. has lost credibility in a fundamental sense? I mean, that's going to last far beyond this crisis. It showed politically nothing gets done until there's a hard deadline, and now the markets have had to start to price in even the possibility of a default, a problem you would only see in emerging market countries.
Yeah.
Now, the developed world considering that.
Yeah, so to me, the markets actually were pretty smart, and they didn't overreact, and I think the markets knew that we weren't really going to default ever. I think what the markets began to watch was, are we going to do enough to actually get our country on the proper fiscal footing? And, again, this is only very marginal. I think people are beginning to read in and realize that this is only marginal. We haven't done really much at all to reduce deficits. It may be the best deal that we can get, but there's no question it is an embarrassment that we have to wait until our back is up against the wall to do anything. That's the whole point of sequestration, is to say if Congress doesn't act, then X will occur. In this case, X may not even occur because, again, there's a way to override it so simply. But no, it's here. The greatest deliberative body in the world doesn't deliberate much, and it's highly frustrating for any of us who've lived in a world where we actually do tangible things.
Well, we're going to stay tuned for action and what happens at 11 o'clock hour, as you say. Thank you so much for joining us.